CM Punk returned on AEW Collision and immediately started subtweeting the Young Bucks. Now everybody wants the two sides to work together in a work-shoot storyline. Ugh. And by everybody, I mean a small niche following of hardcore fans whose interests do not move the needle on a mainstream level. CM Punk's return outdrew all but one episode of AEW Dynamite in 18-49 this year. And Dynamite vs. Collision is the only feud between Punk and the Young Bucks I want to see. It can bring out the best in all of them without litigation. Just keep them separated, word to the Offspring. Because a CM Punk versus the Elite work shoot would fail miserably. For a number of reasons. I can't even believe we're still having this conversation or that anybody in their right mind would trust Tony Khan's leadership in a situation like that. Mans is still shaking in his boots from a temper tantrum at an AEW Media Job Fair in September, which to this day has not been resolved. And motherfuckers think AEW can just shrug off those lingering tensions and do the same type of work shoots that got us here in the first place? Work shoot storylines require authority and direction and leadership and backbone from the promoter, all of which Tony Khan does not have. Tony is too scared to even talk about how he feels regarding the brawl out 9 months ago. How can he or AEW be trusted to broker a peaceful and professional working relationship between the scared to death EVPs and the single most radioactive wrestler in history? The relationship between CM Punk and the Young Bucks is untenable. And after all the worked shoots we've seen turn into actual shoots and backstage fights in AEW, the fact that anybody is clamoring for CM Punk and the Elite to recreate their real-life fight in any form or fashion is internet wrestling dog shit that won't draw a single dime. AEW already tried to blur the lines between Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk last year with promos that became increasingly more real. And you know what happened? Not only did AEW not draw money, they now have to spend money because of all the legal fees they're paying for an issue that is still ongoing. And you want a sequel to this bullshit? If AEW did a work shoot on the Brawl Out, the only thing anybody would be drawing is a courtroom sketch. Fuck out of here. Work shoots are so overrated, and they usually don't move business like that. For my money, the greatest work shoot of all time actually involves CM Punk. It was the famed 2011 Pipe Bomb promo, which led to a Money in the Bank main event in CM Punk's hometown of Chicago against WWE's biggest star of the generation in John Cena. That pay-per-view drew 195,000 buys in 2011. That was up 15% from the previous year, which is pretty good, but 6 pay-per-views did better and 6 pay-per-views did worse that year. The literal definition of an average buy rate. It wasn't even the highest drawing non-Big Four pay-per-view. Elimination Chamber and Extreme Rules both did better. If you follow the TV ratings, Raw on June 27th, 2011, the day of the Pipe Bomb promo, happy early anniversary, averaged 4.94 million viewers. But the Pipe Bomb wasn't advertised, so that had nothing to do with the rating. The week after, Raw's viewership plummeted to 3.7 million viewers. But that was a July 4th show, which always bombs, so we can throw that out. The next week, on the go-home show for Money in the Bank, was the real test of how this angle was connecting. But unfortunately, Raw did 4.4 million viewers, down 11% from the Pipe Bomb promo. So for a go-home show for a worked shoot angle, interest was actually down among TV viewers. You don't even gotta believe me. Here's an article from the Baltimore Sun literally titled, CM Punk Storyline Still Not Moving Rating. And those lukewarm numbers were for an all-time great worked shoot. You think CM Punk versus the Elite would be anywhere near that good in the jittery Twitter fingers of Tony Khan? That's like when the Eagles had one of the best rosters in the NFL, but Chip Kelly was their coach. AEW lacks follow-up and often doesn't fully explain storylines to its fan base. The Elite reunion was a story years in the making, and when it finally happened, it just happened, and we moved on like a TNA segment. To the back. No, literally, the follow-up for the Elite reunion was a throwaway backstage segment. So good luck making money with the low-ceiling proposition of an art-imitating life storyline, because you're gonna need it. The dirty little secret about worked shoots is that outside of subreddits and wrestling gossip websites, nobody really gives a shit about backstage drama in pro wrestling. AEW learned that the hard way when they had a whole show about backstage drama that only had to be better than Power Slap in that time slot, and it still bombed with an AEW lead-in. That's your core audience sitting right there after Dynamite. But when it was time for the AEW Gossip Hour that is all access, they changed the channel like it was a QTV spinoff. One of the many reasons AEW All Access failed is that they couldn't legally talk about the incident that the show was built around, which is the same exact problem they would run into if they tried to make it into a storyline. Besides, nobody's trying to see middle-aged adults act like middle schoolers unless somebody on Vanderpump Rules is being cheated on. The Bloodline is the most critically acclaimed storyline maybe ever, and it's moving numbers for WWE like nothing they've seen in years. Not 15%, trying over 50% increase in ratings for Roman Reigns' 1,000-day celebration. Jey Uso's decision drew another monster number last week. You know why? Because it's fake. The Bloodline is a story that captivates the imagination of wrestling fans and does not rely on wrestling gossip websites to connect with the viewer. It's a story about power, and greed, and family, and gaslighting that anybody can relate to. There's no dog whistling, there's no legal drama, there's no petty backstage politics. This is a major league storyline, which means they don't rely on anything that happens backstage because all the most important angles play out on the big stage. People aren't comparing this to divorce court. This is cinema, which acknowledges that people are playing their roles to perfection. How many memes and comments have you seen saying that this Bloodline storyline deserves an Oscar or an Emmy? You know who they give those awards to? Actors, thespians, performers. You know what they give to people who try to recreate real-life storylines only to work themselves into a shoot? Subpoenas, lawsuits, and legal fees. But it's Tony Khan's money, not mine. Check out this video about why Bianca Belair's fake wrestling character should turn heel, and subscribe before I threaten to sue you too. Do you want to see a work shoot between CM Punk and the Elite? Tell me in the comments!